This is Talking Voiceovers, where we interview professionals of the South African voiceover industry to inspire each other as well as newcomers. Today we'll be chatting to Lebo Mochudi, lover of music, but also pretty much a jack of all trades when it comes to sound and media. Welcome, Lebo.
Thank you for inviting me.
Pleasure. Lovely to meet you finally.
Yes.
I'm going to ask you to take us through your story and how you went from being a journalist to voicing characters on a children's TV show.
Okay, well, I was working as a journalist back home, which was 2 years into my studies. I couldn't afford to study any longer. So I went back home. I'd been studying journalism and drama. Drama was a bit of a secret. My parents didn't know I was studying it, but I discovered it at varsity. After the 2 years, I went back home, got a job at a journalism firm, a newspaper, group of newspapers. And one day, a friend gave me a call who was working at the Barnyard Theatre as a technician, lighting technician. And he said, "Do you still sing? Come over for an audition." And I literally left work at lunchtime and I haven't been back since. But via the Barnyard, it was Barnyard Theatre for 2 years. Then I started a band with some friends and that ran for 8 years. And then when the band dissolved, I got involved in final mix engineering, where I discovered voiceovers. And one of the prominent voiceover artists that I work with, Simpiwe Nkosi, he heard me doing funny voices once during one of our sessions, just really offhandedly. I wasn't really concentrating. He's like, "Do you do that a lot? Like, 'cause I think you should really pursue that." I was like, "It's a thing?" He's like, "Yes, you can actually get work as a character voice actor." And I started researching and discovered I Know That Voice, that documentary that we were speaking about.
Yes.
And just started pushing for it since then. And when I left the final mix engineering job, I got a job as a musical director for Doc McStuffins, the Sesotho version in South Africa. And nearing the end of our season, that first season, I realized that we had all these voices that needed to be recorded that my team was not able to actually execute, because I'm a little bit of a perfectionist of things like that. So, so I was like, okay, I'm going to go home and work on these and try and do them myself. Then we can save time and get the job done. And that was the beginning. From then it was Cool Cats on ETV. They obviously heard about me from the Doc McStuffins thing. And 2019, I went to an audition for puppeteering with TAKALANI SESAME. And that's a natural progression, because since I do one of the characters, I do his voice, and then I just ended up doing more voices in the system, yeah.
So for those of us who aren't exactly familiar with children's TV shows, what are the voices that you do? What do they sound like? Give us an example.
Look, like the thing about children's voices that I've discovered is that every day I go in, I dress up like I'm going to gym or going to a basketball match. It's a workout because it's energy, energy, energy. Kids, you can't really be like, "Hey, blah, 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 blah." It's like, "Blah, blah, 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 blah. Hey, kids, how are you doing?" Like everything is so high energy, high octane. And it's a whole range of voices. I mean, I do high pitched and things like cookie, So it uses the entire range of my voice.
That sounds like so much fun.
Yeah, it's an absolute ball.
Yes, sir.
Dumela, Elmo. Dumela.
Helang, ke kopa thuso ho theoha. Hona ke sekala. Dikala di bontsha boima ba dintho.
Ntlhantlha haholo.
Do you have a specific technique to prepare before a gig?
My day, if I know I'm recording the next day, actually starts the previous night, because I'm a bit of an insomniac, so I have to find a way to get to sleep early to rest the voice and make sure that it's strong enough for the next day. So I'll usually maybe go for a run, even if it's like a midnight run, just to tire myself out and get to bed early. Morning starts with some warm-ups, just some light humming while I make myself a little concoction, usually ginger, a bit of garlic, some turmeric, cinnamon, a little bit of honey if I can. And then I slowly make my way through and just get into that headspace, get my energy in the right space, and go for it, really.
You just do the voices for Takalani. Are you still the music director?
Yes. So I just do the voices for, because it's also broken up into blocks. So we do a puppeteering block where we actually film the visuals with some voicing. But then what happens is that we dub into different languages. So the original is recorded in English, and then we dub it into Sesotho, Afrikaans, isiZulu, Ndebele. I forgot what the last language is, but it's 5 different languages. I only do 3, so forgive me for forgetting the other one.
Wow, so you do 3 of the languages, and how many characters for each language?
I do 3 characters for Sesotho, 2 characters for Afrikaans, and 1 character for English.
Oh, wow. And are they all the same characters or different ones completely?
One that I do for English duplicates across Sesotho and Afrikaans because that's actually my character. And then the Sesotho one is another Sesotho one that's a standalone character. And then the 2 Afrikaans ones are standalone, but they repeat on the Sesotho as well. Yeah, it's actually quite cool. I lose track because I've picked up more characters recently.
Oh, wow. That's so much fun. So I was going to say, gee, there must be so many actors doing this. But in fact, if there's a few of you that are repeating lots of characters, then it's a small team.
Well, yeah, I mean, there are a lot of people, but wherever you can get people that are capable, but also are able to do their character in multiple languages, it saves a lot of admin and a lot of trouble, you know. So a lot of the actors do speak multiple languages, so they do record across different languages.
Okay, and then it keeps the voice consistent as well, I suppose. That's pretty cool.
Absolutely.
Besides TV shows and children's voices, what other voiceovers do you do?
I've recently gotten a lot into more realistic character voices. So, I mean, I don't have the deepest male voice. I usually get called to do younger male voices. So like students and young men. Last week, in fact, I was doing a voice for a character of a university graduate. So yeah, and some more conversational voiceovers. I'm not really the movie type of voice, you know, those deep commanding voices, which I thought would restrict me from getting work, but I'm finding out that I just get different work, which is cool.
Yeah, exactly. There's lots of different work out there, so not everybody gets fit in the same boxes.
100%. I'm just learning that now.
So when you say conversational characters and young male, are you dubbing movies or is it for commercials or acting?
Some radio drama things, and no, so not for movies, no, not yet. But yeah, I'm only now venturing into that space, to be honest. When I initially started doing voiceovers, I was doing a lot of corporate voiceovers, which was kind of my in because, you know, I didn't have any experience. And I'm grateful that I got the chance to learn in that space. So now I'm getting into more the commercial space with, like I say, the radio dramas and adverts and such.
If you're enjoying this interview, give us a thumbs up. How did the pandemic affect the way you worked last year?
Wow, flashback. Just before it happened, literally on the night that we were locked down, a very good friend of mine helped me set up at home and just set myself up with a little recording setup. It wasn't the best in quality program, Audacity, which I'll plug because they got me through the absolute worst of it. And fortunately, the quality was just good enough, and I had enough experience from my final mixing days to get a decent product out of it. So I managed to keep up with the TAKALANI recordings, first of all, and I managed to, when I got myself into the right spiritual space, to actually record some music and, you know, just something to keep my mind off going crazy.
Tell us about your music career.
Sure. The music career started professionally with the band that I started after the Barney Theatre. It was a band called Voodoo Child. And it was kind of like a pop funk rock band, some hip hop infused, whatever we felt like throwing into the poiki. And that was wonderful. It really got me well versed in the live performance aspect of things. And we recorded some work and then put an album out. So It also introduced me to the studio space. And since then, I've kind of been working really freelance, just collaborating with other artists. And I'm currently now working with a hip hop project called The Assembly and another kind of rocky, alternative, experimental rock band called Evening Machine. But I'm always just keeping myself open to collaborative work, and I find so much learning in that. You know, every time you work with a new artist, you're learning more things that you would have never really discovered on your own because that's not how you work, you know? But yeah, so I still consider myself a musician first.
And you teach singing, you teach vocal at schools?
I teach privately, yes, I teach privately. I used to teach at some institutions, but now I do it privately because otherwise I can't really manage the time and, you know, I can't make my own times, you know.
Yeah, that makes sense, yeah.
Kamisa ke nata si dintwaneng tsena tsa bodikala.
Go phamisa ke yona fela tsela ya ho tseba hore na ntho e boima.
Potso e ntle, Elmo. Tlo sheba ka mora lemati lena.
O bone seo?
E boima ho feta ke efe? Tlou kapa kgoho? Le nepile. Tlou e boima ho feta kgoho. Ke ka hoo tlou e leng tlase sekaleng. Empa shebang hona.
Do you have any advice for someone starting out?
See, this is a weird thing because I consider myself a bit of a newbie because I really only got into this post 2016, and 5 years is no time for one to consider themselves a master at anything, really, I think. But I do also recognize that there are people that are on year one that can pick up something. And to those people, I say there's nothing to it but to do it, really, just do it. Because before I started doing the character voices, for example, professionally, I used to sit and observe and listen to people and try and imitate them and imitate accents. And, you know, by the time I needed to step up and show it, I wasn't completely unfamiliar with it, if that makes sense. So that's my only advice. And I've already had people approach me after the video that I posted on the group. Really just do it. Just start doing it. And obviously, we have so many resources now that the question of who must I approach really can be answered by yourself with a little bit of research. So once you're ready to approach somebody and ask for an in somewhere or to register yourself somewhere or anything like that, then you'll have a little bit more confidence if you start doing it alone and in your bedroom or wherever.
And then you just go and look for the people who can hire you and make yourself known to them.
Absolutely. The resources are there for us, you know. And, you know, there's something that I actually learned myself, again, still learning, which is the reason why I also posted that video. Somebody said to me, you do this cool thing and like the people that are involved in it don't know. I'm like, you're absolutely right. Like you have to put yourself out there. You have to market yourself. You have to make yourself visible in some way or other.
What do you do so far to market yourself?
I'm finding other platforms.
Are you on VoiceMe already?
No.
I think that's a good place to start for the South African market.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. VoiceMe.
Yeah. And also watch all the other episodes. I mean, we've been chatting about all this. So
Yes. Just on that point, I just want to say respect for what you do. I mean, you initially even told me about the group and directed me towards it and all the resources that do come up in your interviews with people like you say. I think it's a wonderful thing. And I just want to say thank you. And I'm sure it's appreciated by a lot more people than actually tell you.
Thank you. It's a pleasure. It's really fun doing it. And I get to meet a lot of super cool people like yourself. What do you enjoy the most about voice acting?
The most important thing that I've observed that really shattered my preconceptions about voiceover, and we touched on it earlier, looking at what is out there and deciding that, okay, if you don't identify with any of that, then you're not needed in that space. I think there's a lot to be said for new voices are needed, new characters in the voices, you know, not necessarily characters, but new voice characteristics are needed. You hear someone who would be an excellent voice artist because they just have everything that is needed, the drive, the hunger, the hard work, the understanding of, you know, it's not really about sounding like the movie guy, you know. You don't have to sound like the movie guy or the L'Oreal lady. So just if that's what you're into and that's what you're feeling, go for it, you know. You'll work it out in the end. There will be a space. And otherwise, make your own niche, you know, make your your own space. I observed that first with my singing students, where some of the greatest singers and songwriters, for example, like your Bob Dylans, weren't necessarily the greatest technicians, but they have made the significant strides and left an indelible mark within music history without being the greatest technicians, or sounding like the most classic voices. So yes, there's a lot to be said for it.
They brought out what was in their heart, and that's what mattered.
100%, yes.
Chale, Makomo, what's so Lebo? Cool, let's keep it moving.
When you were growing up, did you ever imagine that you would be voicing children's characters?
Never. Never. I mean, I grew up in Welkom, combination of Lesotho and Welkom. And there's nobody there was even talking about these things, let alone doing them. We knew of one professional musician in my kind of like area who was like working out in Joburg, and he had a band. Like we knew one guy when I was growing up, So and it all started with that discovery of the drama department at Rhodes, where it's like, wait a minute, people study this and people make a living out of this. Like, wait, I think I'm going to look deeper into this. And through that, I found out that felt more like home to me. So my professional journey has now all been built around finding what is truest to me and to who I am. And it's led me here. I mentioned the spiritual aspect of things earlier, and through studying and introspection, have found that teaching and working with children is really aligned to my purpose. And I discovered this very late, literally 2016, and I was like, yes, that's it. That's my purpose. This is what I should be doing. Everything speaks of it. And when I made that decision, then all these things started coming. It's almost like the universe met me halfway after I decided to meet it halfway. And that's this path hasn't been forced at all that has led me here since that moment. It hasn't been forced. It's all kind of just come, hey, listen, somebody's looking for this here. Hey, somebody's looking for this here. And yeah, so that there's a lot to be said about that. It feels like a very purposeful journey and a purposeful path.
That's really beautiful. Do you think it's ever too late to change from a boring desk job to finding your true purpose?
I don't think so at all. And I have to say that, one man's boring desk job is another person's purpose. For them, that's what they really have been working their whole life towards. And that's awesome. But if it's not your thing and you're feeling it, at whatever point you realize that, it's not too late. It's not, because you know what, even your apparent few years that you have left, living those in your purpose will be worth the entire life of not, I
started very late as well, and I'm so glad I made the jump. I really love that you have done so many things in your life. It's really fabulous that you don't have just one straight road. You just branch out and do all sorts of things.
What's amazing about it is that every new thing draws on things that I've done before. It almost feels like a video game where you're headed on this path towards this big boss, and at every little stage you pick up new weapons and you upgrade your abilities. And I always used to play those games and think, what happens if I don't pick up those upgrades? And I've tried it, and you can't get over the big boss at the end. And it's almost like it has to be that way. We actually meant to be picking up little things. I can imagine that some people divert, and as they divert, they decide that last thing is dead to me. So they don't subconsciously carry it with them, and they don't want to draw on it when they get to the next thing. And when we actually should be drawing on every single thing builds to the next thing and can build on the next thing.
And you were a sound engineer as well.
Yes. I was doing final mix engineering, sound design, some composition. That I did very deliberately because I wanted it to help my music career so that I understand how to work in a studio. I stood there one day and just realized that if you leave me in a music studio for a weekend and then you come back, I will have created nothing. and that bothered me. So I was like, okay, I'm going to go on a journey and learn how to create by myself in a music studio.
So that would help you in your voiceover path as well.
Absolutely, 100%. It helps me work quicker because I can talk to engineers in their language, and understanding what we should be doing from both sides also helps me work quicker and just avoid certain unnecessary things like how you should be doing certain things on the mic. It's invaluable to understand the other chain. When I was working as a final mix engineer, I was studying the other jobs within the chain, because you're the last in the chain of events. When the product leaves you, it goes straight to client. So I've made a concerted effort to go back and see, okay, what does the person in library do? Okay, cool. What does the producer do? Okay, cool. What does the director do? What is, and anytime you do that for any space you're in, you instantly become more efficient and thereby more desirable to work with.
What equipment do you have at home? What was it that you used during lockdown?
It was the Focusrite package. Focusrite had a point where they were selling that whole big box with everything in it, the big red box.
Yes.
Yeah, so that's what I was using. But then I also had picked up a Rode vocal mic.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, the NT1A.
That's the one I've got there.
Aha, yes, wonderful mic. So that's the one that I was using with the Audacity, like I said. And it's a very simple setup. And now that we're back kind of seeing people and going into offices again, I prefer not to use it because I know I can get better. So I imagine that I would need to treat my space a lot more, but I'll do that when I have a space that is mine to treat.
Do you prefer working in studio with sound engineers and directors?
Only because it's so much work engineering myself.
That's true.
So I'm like, okay, look, if I can go into a studio and just have to concentrate on voicing and walk out and I don't have to bother with it, that's awesome by me. Other than, engineering while recording, and then editing myself and cutting everything and then sending it, I do prefer working in studio.
And do you have an agent that helps you to get work?
Yes, I don't have a specified voice agent. I have an acting agent who sends me for some voice stuff. But I think maybe I've been fortunate to just really get work through recommendations. And then those people that I work with recommend me to other people and so on and so forth. So work is always kind of coming in that way. I think if I went through a period of no work, the need would be more highlighted to me. But again, I've been fortunate to not really have such a period since I started.
So you see, growing your personal network, even live, I mean, not online, but just face-to-face network is just as, if not more important than working online marketing.
Absolutely. It's crucial because, I mean, if you're a client and you can go onto a platform that has a bunch of voice artists, or you can ask one of your trusted voice artists, do you know somebody? You're more likely to go with what one of your trusted voice artists says. So you're right. It is arguably more important.
Word of mouth will never die. Not even with the pandemic. If our audience have any questions for you, where can they reach you?
I go by my name on all social media platforms, Lebo Mochudi. Otherwise, they can email me at lmochudi@gmail.com. That's the easiest and the most direct way. Thank you, Gael. And voorspoed for what you are doing. I mean, you're doing so much for the space. So much love and respect for you.
Thank you. And thank you for chatting to everybody on the platform. Keep well. We'll chat soon.
Thanks, Gael. Bye.
Cheers. This was Talking Voiceovers. To make sure you don't miss any of the episodes, be sure to subscribe and hit that bell button.